Hello everybody, today we're going to be making the classic brownie recipe. For it you'll need a half a cup of butter melted, a cup of granulated sugar, 2 large eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a third a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, a half cup of all-purpose flour, a fourth a teaspoon of salt, and a fourth teaspoon of baking powder. And optional, you can add chocolate chips, which I will be adding today. Okay, the first step you need to do is to preheat the oven to 350. This step isn't just about heat, it's about predictability. Ovens need time to stabilize so that your brownies can bake evenly from the second they go in. Secondly, you need to grease an 8x8 pan. You can use parchment paper, but I used vegetable oil. Okay, so the next step now is to combine the melted butter and the sugar. The melted butter brings moisture and fat, which coats flour particles and slows down the gluten formation, giving us a softer, denser texture. The sugar does more than sweeten. It's a hygroscopic molecule, means it pulls in and holds onto water. That moisture helps make the brownies chewy instead of dry. Also, as we bake, sugar begins to caramelize and participate in the Maillard reaction, both of which create rich, toasty flavors that are shiny and crackly on top. And zoom in. And you want to combine it to just combine. Okay, now that the sugar and butter are combined, now we're going to whisk the 2 large eggs and the teaspoon of vanilla. Eggs are Eggs are power players in baking. They're packed with proteins that denature when heated. That's a fancy word for saying unfolded. And when they coagulate or link up to form a stable network. Okay. This is gonna be janky. Okay. They call for half a teaspoon, but I'm gonna do a whole teaspoon. I like that. The network helps trap steam and structure that the brownie needs to rise. Meanwhile, the fats of the yolk add richness and emulsify the batter, keeping everything smooth and uniform. We're also incorporating air when we mix, and it's pretty good. The slight fluffiness we're building now gives a little lift and helps distribute heat more evenly as it bakes. The vanilla is just for flavor. Okay. We're just going to mix this to also combine. Okay, mix it. Now I'm going to add the dry ingredients. I've already measured out the half cup of flour, the third a cup of cocoa powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of baking powder. Now that we're adding this, the cocoa powder is partially made out of starch, which helps absorb the liquid and thicken the batter. It's also slightly acidic, which affects our leavening. And this has the salt and the baking powder, and the salt is a flavor enhancer. It reduces bitterness and boosts sweetness and brings out the depth in the chocolate. And the baking powder is a chemical leveling agent, a combination of acid and base that react with the wet ingredients and against the heat, creating carbon dioxide bubbles, which helps expand and give it a light crumminess. Now we're going to add the flour. Start with the hand. The flour contains 2 proteins, gluten and gliade. When they meet water, they form glutenine and gliade. When they meet water, they form gluten, but too much gluten makes the brownies tough, so we mix just enough to bring everything together. I'll come back once everything's mixed together. I've now mixed the batter, so now I'm going to add the chocolate chips in. These are optional. You can also add mixed nuts or anything else you'd want. And after this, we'll bake, so I'll come back when it's time to bake. Now we're about to bake the brownies. I already poured the batter into the pan. This is an 8x8, and when we put it in the oven, this is what the ingredients will do to it. The egg proteins coagulated, which will give it structure. The water is going to evaporate and steam, and it's going to make the batter rise. The sugar is going to caramelize and add a complex flavor, and the Maillard reaction is going to happen between the amino acids and sugars, and the color is going to deepen, and the crust is going to become like crummy. And then the baking powder is going to release CO2, which is going to make it rise as well. We're going to bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes, it will come back for the result. Now the brownies are done, and you can tell because I poked them with a chopstick and it came out clean, a wooden chopstick. And that's my brownie recipe. Thank you.